Hi, welcome to Story Time with Rohini. I will narrate an Indian folk tale and it is titled A Story to End All Stories. Once upon a time, in a kingdom, there lived a king who loved stories. And he never tired of listening to stories. He kept on asking people for stories, and every day the queen, the courtiers, the ministers, and everybody in the kingdom narrated stories to the king. And the king was so happy. And he thought that he will never ever get bored of stories. When he got this thought, he proclaimed in the kingdom, saying that whoever makes him tired of listening to stories will be given 5,000 gold coins. And everybody in the kingdom came to the king and they started narrating lots and lots and lots of stories. And each time they began a story, after each sentence, the king would say, and he would give appropriate expressions and listen to the story with great interest. Scholars from his kingdom tried to bore the king of listening to stories. The king never got bored. Scholars from across other kingdoms came to this kingdom and narrated lots and lots of stories to the king. But the king never got tired of stories. He never got bored. He loved and loved stories even more. Then one scholar from very far off kingdom came to the kingdom. He was a pandit, a learned scholar, and he knew lots of stories. So he thought that if he narrated stories to the king every day, after 15 or 20 days, the king will get so bored of stories that he will receive the reward. Now the scholar also needed the money. So he came with a lot of enthusiasm and he announced himself to the king and he said, Maharaj, give me a chance. I will try to bore you with my stories. And I think I will receive the reward announced by you. The king said, sure, scholar, please begin. And then the scholar began a story. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom, he said. And the king went, yeah. And then the scholar said, a king ruled the kingdom. And then the king said, And then the scholar said, the king had a princess. And the king went, ah. And then the scholar said, the princess was kidnapped by a dragon. And then the king said, oh. And the king went on listening with great interest. The scholar narrated stories for 10 days. The king wasn't tired. The scholar narrated stories for 20 days. The king wasn't tired. The scholar narrated stories for 1 month, every day for a whole month. The king never got tired. And the scholar, after the 45th day, was very exhausted and he walked out of the king's court very sadly. And while he was walking thus, he met an old friend of his. And the friend said, hi, how come you are in our kingdom? What is up? And then the scholar said, for 45 days I have been in your kingdom. And then the friend said, how come I didn't see you? And then the scholar said, I have been in the king's court all day long, every day, narrating stories to the king because I wanted to bore your king of all the stories. And I wanted the reward because I need it. I need the money to take back home. My family is suffering, he said. And then the scholar said, what? And then the friend said, what? You tried for 45 days and the king is still not bored? And the scholar said, yeah, that's the case. And I'm very disappointed today because I'm running out of stories and I don't have any more to tell. So probably I won't receive the reward. My trip all the way from my faraway kingdom has been wasted, said the scholar. And then the friend said, let me help you. It'll take time, but I will help you. I will make sure that you get the reward. And then the scholar's face brightened and he said, how? And then the friend said, tomorrow morning, when you are going to the king's court, take me along with you and I will show you how, he said. Now the scholar was very pleased and he took his friend along with him to the king's court the next day. And the king looked at the newcomer and said, scholar, who's he? And then the scholar said, sire, from today, instead of me, my friend will narrate stories to you. And I'm sure he can bore you easily. And I'm sure you'll get tired listening to his stories. And the king only laughed and he said, I never get tired of stories. Please try. And then the friend began the story. He said, once upon a time, there was a far off village. And then the king said, And then the friend said, on the outskirts of the far off village, there's a pond. And then the king said, And then the friend said, on the banks of the pond, there's a huge tree. And the king said, lovely. And then the friend said, on that tree live thousands of sparrows. And the king said, cool, that's nice. And then the friend said, there was a huge farm beside that tree. The king went, And then the friend said, a farmer worked in the field all day long. The king said, okay. And the friend said, the farmer harvested his crop of ragi after it was ripe. And the king said, good. And the friend said, now the farmer tied all his grains into sacks. The king said, that's what they do. That's very nice. And then the friend said, the farmer got 200 bags of ragi. King said, that's very, very good yield. The farmer must have been having a good year. And then the friend said, the farmer stacked up all the grains under the huge tree on which thousands of sparrows lived. The king said, that's good. And then the friend began the story. He said, every day, dear king, one sparrow would come down, eat a grain, go to the pond, drink some water and fly back and sit on the tree. King said, yes. And then the friend said, the second sparrow, after the first sparrow did this, the second sparrow would come down, eat a grain, go to the pond, drink some water, fly back and sit on the tree. King said, nice. And then the friend said, after the second sparrow went, the third sparrow would come down, eat a grain, go to the pond, drink a little water and go back and sit on the tree. King said, yes. And then the friend continued, now the fourth sparrow would come down, eat a grain, go to the pond, drink some water, sit back on the tree. The king said, okay, what happened next? And then the friend said, wait, my dear king, wait. Now the fifth sparrow came down, ate a grain, drank some water, flew back and sit on the tree. The king said, yeah, I got it. What happens next? And then the friend said, wait, my sire, wait, I'm narrating. And he said, the sixth sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water, flew back and sit on the tree. And then the seventh sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water, flew back and sat on the tree. Then the eighth sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, and the king was like, yeah, I got it. And then the storyteller said, wait. And then the king kept on listening, and by the end of the day, 100 sparrows came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water and flew back and sat on the tree. And the king thought, tomorrow the story must proceed anyways. He said, friend, thank you for narrating the story for today. Come back tomorrow. I'm not yet bored, he said. So friend came back on the second day and he said, and the king said, yeah, continue with the story. And then the friend said, yeah, I'll narrate the story. Now the 101st sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water, flew back and sat on the tree. And the king was like, what? And then the friend continued. The 102nd sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water, and flew back and sat on the tree. And the king said, yeah, I get it. What happened next? And then the friend said, wait, sire, wait. There's still a lot of story left. And this went on for 15 days. And in 15 days, luckily, the 1,000 sparrows finished eating the grain. And then the king said, today the story must proceed further, right, storyteller? Now, narrate the rest of the story to me. I am not yet bored. And the king said, and then the storyteller continued. He said, again, the first sparrow came down, ate a grain, drank some water, flew back and sat on the tree. And the king said, what? We just finished with the 1,000 sparrows. What is this again? And then the storyteller said, wait, sire, they are eating the grain, and there are 200 bags of grain, remember? And then the king said, in 15 days, how many grains did the sparrows eat? And then the storyteller laughed and said, in 15 days, sire, the sparrows ate only 20 bags, and we have 200 bags of grain. Till they finish that grain, the story has to go on, right? Let me tell you. The second sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to the pond, drank some water, flew back and sat on the tree. The third sparrow came down, ate a grain, went to... The king was, what? For 15 days I have been listening to this. And then he thought, I shouldn't say that I'm bored because I will lose 5,000 gold coins. Let me continue. Let me pretend. Let him go on with what he wants to say. He can't go on for more than 2 more days. And the king was wrong. And the storyteller went on like this for a month. The king was bored. But he didn't tell that he was bored. He went on. The storyteller went on for 45 days. And the king was having a headache and he couldn't do he couldn't attend to any issues of the kingdom, and the king was feeling frustrated and terrible, and he didn't want to listen to any more of this story of a sparrow coming down, eating a grain, going to the pond, drinking water and flying back and sitting on the tree. The king said, no. And then on the 46th day, when the storyteller came, the king said, do you have anything new to tell me? Does the story proceed? And the storyteller said, wait, my sire, today the 501st sparrow will come down, eat a grain, go to... The king said, yeah, I know it. After that, what? And then the storyteller said, there are still 100 sacks of grain left. And then the king said, no, I cannot listen to this story anymore. I'm bored to death. I'm tired of stories. Stop it, please, he said. And then the storyteller said, then, my sire, I win the bet. I deserve your reward. And then the king got those 5,000 gold coins out and gave it to the friend and said, thank you for the story. Please, I am very, very thrilled. Take the money and leave immediately. And then the friend said, dear king, if you are ever bored again and want to listen to a story, I am always there. I live in your kingdom and I am just 2 streets away from your palace. Then the king said, please, I'll give you 10,000 more gold coins. Take it and go home and never ever come to narrate a story to me. Please do not ever come, he said. And he gave 10,000 gold coins extra. And then the scholar and the friend bowed low, thanked the king, and they walked out of the palace. And once they were out of the palace, they burst out laughing. And then the scholar was very, very pleased with the way the friend helped him, because the friend gave him 10,000 gold coins to take home. And the scholar let the friend keep the 5,000 gold coins for himself. So both of them had a great deal with the stories they presented to the king. And then the king learnt his lesson, and he never troubled anybody, and he also never pestered anybody for stories anymore. And everybody in the kingdom lived happily ever after. Thank you.